Having a pet frog is a great conversation starter, but sometimes people will just keep asking me questions about my frog, and I get to the point where I'm like, hey, I'd like to talk about me now. I got a frog because I needed its skin. I'm allergic to anything with fur. One time I bumped into a guy with a hairy back, then had to use my EpiPen. I probably didn't have to use my EpiPen, but if you have one of those things, you know just how tempting they are to use. Growing up, I had a cat named Snickerdoodles, and I was very allergic to him. These days, my allergies are a lot of sneezing and eye swelling, but back then, it was just straight asthma. My parents and family doctor never realized that my asthma came from my allergies until one day I came home from a friend's house, and Snickerdoodles was buried out in the backyard. And my asthma went away immediately. Parents are terrible doctors, and family doctors aren't much better. I was abandoned by my asthma in 6th grade, and while I should have been happy about this, I was mostly just upset that I could never have a cat or a dog or a pet that could really be a companion. I feel like there are two kinds of pets. There are pets that are companions and pets that are just cool to look at. I've never had much of an interest in owning fish or lizards or snakes, but probably since high school I'd known if I was gonna get a pet, it'd probably be a frog. You can interact with them more than a fish, and they're cuter than lizards. I did not buy a frog until February of my junior year of college. At the time, I was working on a documentary about this guy who was breeding shrimp in his bedroom. And there's something contagious about being around pet owners, so that's really when my desire for a frog really started to become serious. I was also dealing with some mental struggles. I think the weather was manipulating my brain into thinking that life was worse than it actually was. And I thought a frog could help with my lonesome. So on a random Saturday morning, I went ahead and pulled the trigger and shot a frog owner. Just like that, Gerald was mine. And perhaps this is telling of my mental state, but when I first got Gerald, the first thing I Googled was, can frogs love me? The answer was pretty upsetting. This one is Gerald. I'm not gonna hold him for too long because you gotta be careful handling these globs. After about a month of staring at Gerald, holding him for a few seconds at a time, watching him eat his bugs, getting jealous of how good said bugs looked. Again, perhaps this is telling of my mental states, but I Googled if frogs could experience loneliness. I felt like a bad person for forcing this creature to live alone. I'm pretty sure the general answer from Google was that no, frogs don't really feel lonely, but that doesn't make sense. So I went straight to the pet store and legally purchased a second frog. I'd been obsessed with the name Gerald for over a decade, so I knew what I was gonna name my first frog, but when it came to the second frog, I had no idea. Also, I had been planning for at least a couple days before I bought Gerald, but my second frog was a total impulse decision. Like, I felt really guilty, and then 2 hours later, Gerald had a friend. Can you turn around for me, buddy? Face the camera. He's camera shy. He would never make it in the real world. I started calling him Baby as a placeholder because he was smaller and younger than Gerald, but after calling him that for a couple of days, I just kind of stuck with it. I thought Gerald was going to be thrilled that he had a new friend. I mean, why wouldn't he be? But the second Baby showed up, Gerald got like super stressed out and he stopped eating for a month. And that's why you don't project your insecurities onto your children. I have so much wisdom to share. We'll put you away. You look like you're stressed and show that, whoa. You trying to show off your butt? It's the wrong website. You're so funny. Oh. Can you balance? Dude, he always balances on one finger. He's been doing this since I first got him. Look at the camera. You just want to look at me? You're obsessed with me. Stop. I legit thought Gerald was going to die. I talked to a vet, I was Googling every day, he had his own tank to chill in. I did not know what was wrong. These geeks, Baby is still looking at me through the tank, I think he's mad. These geeks are supposed to live for at least 10 years, and I thought Gerald was gonna die after 6 months. But one day I took Gerald to a friend's house since I was gonna leave for vacation, and I remember telling her like, hey, if he, like it's fine, it's not your fault. But the second I left, he started eating. You ever been so ugly you made someone lose their appetite? Gerald has wrecked my self-confidence. Gerald has basically eaten ever since, though he doesn't really eat when I'm watching, he prefers to do it overnight. Because Gerald stopped eating for a month, Baby became bigger than him almost immediately. And everyone in my life couldn't get over how funny it was that Baby was the bigger frog. It's like kind of funny, but I don't know. You ever scrolled Instagram Reels? Gerald seems to be a healthy size these days. I think Baby is a bit overweight, which is my fault. It's not that big of an issue. Australian white tree frogs tend to struggle with obesity, but I want my frogs to be healthy, and more than that, I want them to be confident. My frogs get 15 minutes of screen time every day, and I know it's disheartening for them to go online and look at all of these hot, sexy frogs and then have to spend the rest of the day just staring at their own reflection through the glass. I get it. You know, it's creature nature. But sometimes to lift their spirits, I will dress them up and do these cool vintage photo shoots with them. You wanna see? One thing that's kind of funny about having pet frogs is that they're niche enough of a pet that it's pretty likely you're the only person in someone's life who owns a frog, and so every time they see a frog, they think about you. Every time I'm out with someone and they see a frog poster or keychain, they always point to it and say, "Oh my gosh, Peyton, you have to get that." It's sweet, I guess, but also buy it for me. When's the last time you proved your loyalty financially? People send me photos of frogs all the time. It's like you become the frog guy to people. Which just feels a little weird because honestly, they're such a small part of my life. I mean, they maybe take up 10 minutes a day. You know, I spend more time showering. But nobody sends me photos of that. And don't get me wrong, I feed into it all the time. I mean, I just purchased this frog painting from an artist a couple days ago. I had no intentions of getting a third frog. I was super busy with school my senior year, and there were days it felt like I barely had time to even take care of the two. Sometimes when life got really busy, they developed into a burden. Or maybe not a burden, but they were just another chore I had to add to my already long checklist. I could have hired a nanny or something, but in this economy, I'd rather abandon my children. Plus, for some reason, my brain never thought that a third frog could further help with the void. I don't know why it never did. I figured my brain would have wanted 4, 5, 6 more frogs. But over winter break, I took these two guys home and we just had a great time. You know, I had more time just to watch them, hold them. Every now and then I'd even get to see them eat a cricket. Gerald and Baby tend to eat overnight. I usually will just drop in some crickets and mealworms and then let them role play as hunters. Some people tongue feed their frogs, and that's fine. There are medical reasons to do so, but I feel like at a certain point, you're just babying these creatures. I mean, what's next? You're gonna start bottle feeding them? With whose milk? Not mine. Nice try. Over winter break, I could just be fully present with them. I had nothing clawing away in the back of my mind. It was peaceful. And in this moment of peace and satisfaction, that's when my brain was like, hey, this is pretty good, but what if you had a third frog, right? Because I mean, these two guys are like best friends, but a third? It'd be like having a family. So I bought this guy. His name is Spida, named after the basketball player who can't seem to make it past the second round of the NBA playoffs. He's very jumpy, so I'm worried he's gonna like try to, oh. I don't know if you saw that, but he just peed on me. That means he's kind of stressed. I'm gonna put him back. Honestly, caring for 3 frogs feels the same as caring for 2 frogs. Like, it's not that much more work. I'm gonna put him back now that he's on my shirt. Spida is an American green tree frog. So unlike those Aussies, he actually belongs here. I got him 3 or 4 months ago, and he's fully grown now, but he's way smaller than the other 2. Even now that I'm done with school and life has started to cool down, there are still days when these guys can feel like chores. Which is kind of crazy, because if you told me a couple years ago I had pet frogs and they didn't mesmerize me every single day, I would have been shocked. But that's how it goes. We all kind of get used to our pets. I'm sure if I had a pet tiger, there'd be days I'd be like, ugh, can't believe I have to find another child to feed him. Owning a pet is the only one-sided relationship you should tolerate. These gubs will never love me. Although sometimes they don't run away when I try to hold them. So, it's close enough to love. Every time I buy a frog, I think it's gonna help me with my stress and general melancholy. But I'm gonna be honest, these boogers don't do any of that. They're funny. I really like them, but that's all it is. These days my life is less stressful and more so just boring. And I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, but these little gooners do make life a bit more interesting. So, that's nice. If you enjoy my work, I'm posting even more over on Substack. I'm putting out a couple of free articles every single month. They're funny. They'll kind of scratch that video essay itch as well, or at least some of them will. You can become a paid subscriber. You won't be getting any extra content. I just kind of feel uncomfortable like paywalling my content, especially for people who are struggling financially. But if you can be a paid subscriber, just know your support means more than you realize.